So I'm very glad and happy that Tvertko is with us. I will just say that we are together at the board of the IAIE organization, the International Association for Intercultural Education. And Leslie Besh is with us. He's the vice president. So thank you, Leslie, for being with us the whole day. And the Tvertko, I hope I pronounce Noah Pater. It took me like, I think, 2 months to pronounce the name Tvertko. For Hebrew speakers, it's very hard. So Tvertko is a Croatian educator who works in the fields of Holocaust education, which is interesting, very interesting for us. Israelis, rhetoric, international criminal law, and facing history. I'm happy that you agreed to be with us and to take the whole hour and to explain more about what you do and about your organization.
Excellent. Once again, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here. Since I do realize that this is simultaneously being translated, I will do my best to have a relatively civilized pace, so not to go too fast. That being said, going too fast is my kind of go-to method, so I apologize in advance. My name is Tvrtko, but since that's kind of an unpronounceable, difficult name that fails at the core thing that a name should do, which I think is enable communication, right? I also have a backup name, which is Noah. So feel free to do that at your discretion. And why am I here, right? So I'm a non-formal educator from Croatia. And as Miri announced, we do lots of different things. But one of the core pillars that we do at our NGO is we try to create materials, be it lesson plans, video materials, timeline cards, even comic books recently, that help teachers and educators cover certain topics in the classroom. And our approach here is that we don't think that we know your context better than you do. We don't think that we understand your classroom and your needs better than you do. Rather, we try to do our best to present a set of materials that are designed usually for a 45-minute classroom setting. And then we provide a basic blueprint of how to use those materials, knowing full well that you are experts in the field, that you know your context best, and then you will adapt these materials to your own needs, switching the topics, changing the modules, and then using them in the way that you think best fits the needs in your classroom. So specifically, what am I here to talk about? The project and the topic I'm here to talk about is depolarization. And specifically, when it comes to depolarization, the project there. Now, it's called Depolarization Activism for Resilient Europe, but the topic goes well beyond Europe. And the core idea here is that polarization is a big problem, not only in Croatia, not only in Sweden, Germany, Bosnia, and Serbia, the partner countries, but also all around the world. And the question then becomes, what can we do about this problem? How can we make a positive difference? Now, before we dive into the topic of depolarization, perhaps if I could hear one or two thoughts, perspectives on what polarization is to begin with. Do you see polarization as a problem in your communities, in your countries? What topics are polarizing? Feel free to raise your hand or simply go for it. Both is fine. Leslie, please.
Well, on the macro political stage, our political system is designed for polarization. It is an adversarial system where you have one group on one side of the parliamentary chamber and another group on the other side of the parliamentary chamber. So it is designed to set up polar positions, even if those polar positions don't necessarily reflect the reality of the situation.
Indeed. Well summarized, I think it could be said that it's a dichotomy by design, left versus right, liberal versus conservative, us versus them. It's this very black and white worldview that also then gets extra polarizing when it comes to social media. Perhaps somebody else wants to jump in? Or
Maybe
not? Sure thing,
I
go
will
for it.
say I will say something. I think that if we speak about cultures, in each culture you have a different angle and view, and then of course if you come from different education place in the world, you get different ideas, and I think I'm not sure you will say a little bit how to do it, but it's it's the role of education to know how to depolarization, how to do it, that all the children that come from different culture, different education system, different religions can be at the same kind of humanization, or let's say think together about the best place where they can be together.
Excellent. Beautifully said. Thank you very much, Miri. And I think this emphasizes a very important element in the whole story, which is that by the nature of the world, by the nature how we all live, how we are all brought up, we come from different places. We have different perspectives. They may be religious, cultural, philosophical, or otherwise. Society is made up of people who have different opinions, and that's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with having liberal options, conservative options, people who think that certain policies are good, that other policies are bad. One of the things we try to preserve in society is this concept of diversity, this richness of different opinions and different perspectives, because at the end of the day, we hope that these different perspectives will inform and enrich not only public discourse, but also will help us deal with our problems in an efficient way. Because if we face a problem as a society, my perspective might not be very conducive to solving that problem, but your perspective might be. And a third perspective might also enrich that solution. So in a society where we allow more voices to be heard, more perspectives to be understood, there is a higher probability that we will be able to address the issues we face, and there's always issues, in a constructive way. Now, differing opinions, differing perspectives are normal and welcome. The problem with polarization isn't that we're coming from different places, because that's, once again, to be expected and shouldn't be changed. The problem with polarization is that we arrive at a point where we're not willing to listen to the other side, where we are not disagreeing, but rather we are polar opposites. Rather than an idea of, okay, you view this differently, it becomes my side is good. My side is just. My side is the only one that is correct. This other perspective is not only wrong, it is toxic, destructive for society. And the only way for us to make society better is to make sure that this other perspective isn't heard, that these other people are censored, removed in a polarized, exceptionally polarized society, we don't see the value of talking to the other side. Rather, we see the other side as an enemy that should be removed, right? And it is my humble belief that communication, the ability to talk about different topics, but specifically problems in our society, is the lifeblood of human civilization. Everything we have built, everything we have achieved, everything we can be proud of is a result of us coming together, collaborating within cultures, different cultures together, intergenerationally, any way you want to spin it. Our ability to communicate each other, see each other as human, see the value of a different perspective, even if we disagree with it, is of paramount importance. So how did we arrive at this topic of polarization? As Miri already mentioned, in our work, we deal with lots of polarizing topics. So it can be extremism, anti-Semitism, historical revisionism, nationalism, discrimination issues. So over the years, we dealt with all of these problems, but more and more we saw that there's an underlying current with all of these topics. And that's A, the topic itself, but also B, the fact that we as a society, I would say pretty much since forever, but today more and more are becoming polarized. It is viewed as strength, it is used as wisdom to stick to your guns, stick to your own perspective, and it is viewed as weakness to be open to other ideas. And what we try to do is we try to foster this empathy, we try to foster this understanding, we try to foster this culture of communication. Because in society, we will always have problems. We will always have people who have different perspectives. But our ability as a society to come together very much is correlated to our ability to grow, thrive, and resolve issues. Now, first and foremost, a big disclaimer. I'm not here presenting the teaching materials, the depolarization guide, and the DARE project as a panacea, right? I'm not saying you open this website, you do a couple of these exercises, and civilization is saved. Obviously, these are large problems we have been facing for centuries, and just a couple of workshops won't be able to resolve them, especially not quickly. Rather, what I am presenting the DARE project results as is one step of many, including the things you are already as educators, as promoters of human coexistence already doing, right? And the basic principle is this. Anything in life that you want to be good at, you need to practice. And this is something that we're all familiar with. If you want to be a renowned athlete, you have to exercise all the time. If you want to be a great pianist, you have to play the piano. If you want to be an excellent educator, you have to teach, educate yourself, learn from your mistakes. It's a process of trial and error, a process of practice, and only through time and effort do you become better at things. I think that empathy, being open to other perspectives, being able to listen, being able to control your knee-jerk reaction is also something that needs to be practiced. And one of the reasons why we have so much polarization, one of the reasons why so many people take joy in putting others down rather than trying to understand them, is the fact that, at least in my educational setting, we never practice these sorts of things. At no point in my specific education was there any time or effort spent on depolarization, on differing perspectives, on practicing this skill that we need to build, the skill of coming together, hearing each other, and despite our differences, trying to resolve the issues we face. Now, in this valiant effort of trying to face all these issues. On the website, we have different materials. But the core material when it comes to depolarization is the Healthy Conflict and Constructive Dialogue Classroom, Educator's Guide to Depolarization. Now, I have a handy copy here, which the algorithm won't allow me to show you. It's being censored. But bottom line, it can be downloaded here off the website. And it is a document that's around 50 pages and covers a bunch of theoretical frameworks that deal with the topic of polarization. It talks about what polarization is, how it occurs, but also importantly, it covers different ways of dealing with these polarized topics, right? What can you as an educator do in your classroom? What kind of activities and workshops can you implement to practice that skill, to build that muscle of multi-perspectivity, of empathy, of understanding? Now, there's a number of different exercises here, and I won't have time to go through them all, but there is one that I would particularly like to cover, which is the power of definition. So this is going to be a bit of an interactive part, but because we have a huge group, I think for the sake of manageability, I would ask those who want to participate in the exercise and demonstrate it to raise their hands, because that way I know who's participating and I can assign you with certain topics. Don't be shy. Raising your digital hand is easy and painless. You won't be called out or discriminated during the exercise. At least I'll try not to do so. Okay, excellent. So I will lower my hand, and we have more than enough participants. Thank you very much. So the idea is quite simple here. You, in a classroom setting, start the exercise by providing the example of what the participants will be doing. So each participant gets a term, a concept, a word that they have to define in 3 different ways: a positive definition, a neutral definition, and the negative definition. Now, first we'll start with me, just to give you an example. Let's say that the term I get is democracy. So I have a couple of minutes to come up with definitions, and then I say my positive definition for democracy is that it's a system of governance that allows the people to make choices and also protects minorities. My negative definition of democracy is that it's a charade, a lie that allows the wealthy and powerful to continue ruling while the masses have the illusion of choice. And finally, my neutral definition: democracy is a system of governance that tries to order society. Right? So positive, negative, neutral. Now, the next thing that you do is each person gets some kind of concept that they're supposed to define. However, after a minute or two, when you think of these definitions, when you write them down, you will be giving the group the definitions, but you won't be telling us which definition is which. So I announced this is the positive one, and then they gave you the positive one. Instead, what you will be doing is that you will simply be reading out the definition, and then the rest of the group, the rest of the class, is supposed to guess, is this positive? In which case you do this through the camera, or you put the thumbs up. Is this neutral? In which case you do the circle, or you can add the confused face. And then finally, you have the thumbs down button as well for the negative definition. Okay, so basic concept: each of you that have your hand raised will now get a term, and you will have 2 minutes to come up with general definitions of positive, negative, neutral. So, first and foremost, I'm very bad at reading, even worse at pronouncing. So I'll probably butcher your names. I apologize in advance. This is not intentional. So first, Tamara. Tamara, the term you will be defining is diversity. Shimrit. The term you are getting and will be defining is feminism. Noagoren. The term you will be defining is human rights. Leslie. The term you're getting is immigration. Michelle. The term you're getting is marriage. Serena. The term you're getting is nationalism. Uri. Your term is race. Orna. Your term is refugee. And finally, Miri, your term is university.
Can I ask a question?
Sure thing, go for it.
Are we supposed to write positive, neutral, negative?
Exactly.
So 3 definitions.
You come up with 3 different definitions. The most appropriate way that you personally believe this should be defined in positive, negative, and neutral terms.
Okay, thanks.
So usually in the class, students would have a bit more time, but we're in a rush, so 2 minutes will do. I'm listening, go ahead. Okay, maybe that wasn't the question. So not to put any pressure on you, but we expect a lot from you. We don't expect dictionary definitions, obviously. We want it to be your perspective. But we're also on the edge of our seats to see how you will define these terms. One minute left. Again, you're not writing a PhD. Feel free to be short, concise, and to the point. I can see you're still passionately writing, so a couple more moments. Okay, time's up. So we're kicking off. Once again, a friendly reminder. You are not telling us which definition you're reading. So you're not saying if it's positive, negative, or neutral. The rest of us are supposed to guess, right? And those of you that have your cameras on, do it please via fingers. Those of you that don't, again, you have the reaction buttons, right? So you're not telling us which definition it is. Also, please mix them up. So you're not reading positive, negative, neutral, but rather start with negative or start with neutral, surprise us. And finally, before you dive into the definitions, just repeat the word that you have. So we once again know what you're defining. I must admit, I forgot who got what. Yeah, sorry, I didn't write it down, so hopefully you remember which term is yours. So we're kicking off with Tamara. Tamara, please go ahead, your free definitions, please, and just give us a small break between each definition so we can try to guess.
Hey, good afternoon to everyone. I took the term of diversity, so I'm going to start with the first definition. Diversity, it's actually reduce the social abilities and leads to a poor environment, and it increases the conflict. This is the first definition. The second definition I found. You
Just a
trying to
second
say
for us to
something?
try and guess. So first definition, I would say. Cool. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Diversity can make a balance so everyone can see and everyone can, like, we can see everyone as equal, like everyone as a human. This is the second definition that I'm thinking about diversity. So what do you think? It's a negative or okay? Should I say if it's correct or no?
You can give us the results at the end.
Okay. The last definition, diversity actually can lead to a better outcome, and it's involving people from a range different social and ethic backgrounds to be as the same one, so that you can get a lot of things, a lot of new things you can know from each other if you are coming from different backgrounds. Okay,
So thank you
the
very
first,
much. Yeah, I obviously missed one. I missed the neutral definition. So please tell us.
So I don't know, but I thought that the neutral definition of diversity is to make a balance. So like you can see that everyone are equal. So actually it's not, it's mean nothing, because diversity that you can see that everyone is coming from a different place or have different things. So it doesn't make sense actually. So I give it a neutral definition.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
As you can see, a bit of clarity and a bit of confusion, which is normal. That's what we expect here. Next up, Leslie, please.
Leslie, you are muted.
Leslie,
Okay,
unmute yourself so that we can. Excellent.
Yeah, right. The term is immigration. This is a process whereby the population of the home country is disadvantaged by the mass movement of peoples from another region or another country. Okay.
Okay, camera people, what do you think? Thank you.
Okay. The second definition is that it is the mobility of people whereby the native population is enriched by people who have a variety of different backgrounds and talents over a period of time. And the third definition is the process whereby people are moving from one place to another, usually from one country to another or one region to another.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Leslie. I think we got a lot of those, but not all of them. I see there was a bit of discussion which one is which, but excellent definitions nonetheless. Orna, please.
Okay, just a minute. The refugees bring differences with them, arouse curiosity, and we can contribute to them. Okay. The refugee are additional citizens who works and is part of the economical situation. Okay. And the third one is the refugees are a social and economical burden on society.
Okay, I think we definitely got that last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Noah Gordon, please.
So my term is human rights. And the first definition is a set of rights determined as the base of what every human being or human deserves and that are protected by a set of laws. And the next one is governments and people of power's way of restricting the way that people treat each other or peoples treat each other. And the last one is a way to ensure that every person is treated fairly with the most basic requirements of respect and care.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And with that, we move on to Michelle.
So the concept was marriage. The first is a social framework. A framework that inhibits, puts social constraints on the individual. A bonding that provides a safe place, support and love to nurture growth through life.
If there was an award for clarity here, I think I know who would get it. Thank you very much. And with that, we move on to Uri.
Hi. First one, I had a race. First one, a group of people who share a common ethnic and geographic background. Second one, various production lines of humans. Third one, race, in fact, doesn't exist. There is only one race, the human race.
I like it. I like it. Very creative definitions. I approve. Thank you very much. And with that, Shimrit comes next.
Hi. So I had feminism, advocating for women's rights on the basis of gender equality. The second one is providing a full social, economical, political rights and female empowerment. The last one is it's kind of misconstrued, but a manifestation of masculine women who are really angry and are protesting for their rights.
Not that there's anything wrong with being angry and protesting. It's just
No, I know. I use a derogatory term on purpose.
yeah, sometimes it's hard to set exactly how do you define certain terms in a negative way. Excellent. Thank you very much. So is there anybody left? Yeah, Miri, please go ahead.
Okay, mine was very difficult. I had to define university in 3 different ways. So the first one, the best place to make people intelligent. Wow. Okay. A place to study different subject when you graduate school. And a place that promises to promote you to be a successful person and cost you a lot of money.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. And of course, we finish with university, where it all starts and ends, right? So I think now everybody's spoken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, first and foremost, for your participation. And one thing that I would like to emphasize straight off the bat is that there is no wrong and right definition here. This isn't an exercise where you're trying to get to the best possible definition and then say, oh, my definition is so much more intelligent and clear than yours is. The whole point of the exercise, and I think you've seen it to some extent here, obviously, it's a bit more dynamic in person, right? When you're physically there and everybody is raising and lowering their fingers physically in the same room. But as you were already able to see here, we don't fully agree on what is positive, what is negative, and what is neutral. In a lot of cases, yes, it'll be very clear and we kind of get which one it is. But also in a lot of cases, we're not necessarily sure. And sometimes we even disagree. And that's the core message of this exercise, is that we as humans don't have the same definitions in our heads. We don't view the same terms, the same events, the same words in the same way. And I think that is something that's not obvious to a lot of people, because usually when you say feminism, right, in your head you have a very specific thing. You either think feminism is great and feminism is this, or you think feminism is bad and feminism is this other thing. But the thing is, there's many different movements in feminism. There's many different feminists, and there's many different ways of interpreting whether or not the movement is good or bad. And for some people, when you say feminism, you're saying something positive. For other people, you're saying something negative. It can be based on personal experience. It can be based on things you hear in school or from your family. But the bottom line is we're not coming from the same place. And that is the first thing you want to make clear to the students, to the participants, that just because you think a word means a certain thing, because of cultural differences, because of different life experiences, because of different perspectives, it doesn't necessarily have to mean the same thing to everybody else in the room. For example, those of you that have done debate at university or high school level know that each debate starts with the definition of key terms. Because in debate, because it's kind of an intellectual sport, it is understood that unless you define the terms, unless we're all on the same page what we're talking about, what will often happen is that one team will be talking about one thing, the other team will be talking about a different thing. And instead of having a discussion on the same topic, it will be like two ships passing in the night, thinking they're addressing the other side, but actually only speaking in terms of what they think is actually the real thing. The second element you want to show is that words have an emotional charge. Words can have a positive, negative, or neutral charge. It is defined through society, but it is also very much defined through our personal experience. And the thing to keep in mind here is that A, we get to decide what kind of emotional charge there is for the world, but also perhaps more importantly, if you're starting a discussion on a topic that you know is polarizing, that you know is divisive, it is always better to start from the neutral definition. Because as you were able to see in the exercise, when we do positive or negative, there's kind of adrenaline there, there's emotion there. But when we do neutral, it's just, yeah, whatever. This is like the general way of approaching this term. So if you want to lower the probability of there being conflict and polarization, always start with the neutral term. And finally, apart from the fact that we don't have a shared understanding, apart from the fact that all these words have an emotional charge, the important thing is to realize your sense of agency here, right? That you also decide what your relationship to certain terms and certain words will be. And you can also influence others in your environment, how they will see these terms. Now, first and foremost, you saw that this exercise isn't life-shattering. It isn't a complete shift in perspective. It isn't something that if you do this on your own, the class will suddenly have a lot more empathy and understanding. But it is opening of a door. It is introducing students to the concept of, hey, we all come from different places. We all come from different perspectives. We can't even agree on what certain words mean. And the hope here is that this will at least remove some of the certainty, because I can't be sure of what you're trying to say. I can't be sure of what you believe in unless I talk to you. And that's the difference here, right? We're all to some degree prejudiced. We all come into any conversation and any relationship with our preconceptions. The question is, are we open to listening, to hearing the other side, or is the only thing we want to do reduce this person to something that we like or dislike, something that we've seen on Twitter? Are we falling into the trap of echo chambers where everybody who repeats something I believe in is automatically a good guy, and everybody who believes something different is automatically bad and shouldn't be listened to? Why do I personally believe that this is something that's very important to talk about? Because I was born in Yugoslavia, a country in the Balkans that no longer exists. It was torn apart and destroyed in a war where we spent years killing each other. And how did we arrive at this point? Through nationalism, through divisive rhetoric, through problems that were objective and we couldn't come together over them. We more and more stopped talking to the other side. We no longer believed that the other side has anything relevant, anything important to say, that they are, at the end of the day, simply the enemy. And what happened is we gave up on communication, we gave up on their humanity and focused on our humanity. And when the conversation stopped, there was this gaping void of silence. And soon enough, this silence, in our case, was unfortunately filled with the sound of gunfire and bombs. I'm not saying that you as educators can resolve every conflict out there in the world. I know that there's a lot of things teachers are expected to do nowadays, educators are expected to do. There's the teaching, there's the paperwork, there's the parents, and then there's the cruel reality of what the world is. Us as individuals, we only have a limited effect on what the students think and what the world looks like. And all I'm doing here is humbly suggesting that you have a look at the Educator's Guide, which can be found on the website, and try some of these exercises, right? The power of definition is very simple and quick to do, but you also have different things like Bohmian dialogue, like practicing moderating your own reactiveness, doing certain debates, and practicing empathy. Again, none of these workshops on their own will fundamentally change the way that somebody thinks. However, bit by bit, little by little, we think that a change is indeed possible. So the idea here is, once again, that we realize that you do a lot of different work and that you don't have time to read a 500-page book. That's why the manual is only 50 pages. I definitely encourage you to read through it. And again, keep in mind, none of this is written from the perspective of, we know best and you should do things exactly like we tell you. Instead, we hope that this will be an inspiration for you to integrate it into the things you already do. For example, the power of definition can be done in many different ways. Maybe the terms I shared with you now aren't relevant for your context. You simply use different terms. Maybe you don't want every single one of your students to share all 3 definitions because it takes too long. Then each person shares 1 definition. Maybe you want students to pick their own term rather than you imposing a term on them. All of this is modular. All of this can be approached in many different ways. Okay, so we have another 15 minutes. And what I will do is I will touch upon the video materials once again produced within the scope of this project. Because one element when it comes to active citizenship is being able to listen to the other side. Being aware that just because people are different, it doesn't mean they're bad, it doesn't mean they're evil. Maybe you have more in common than you think. That's one element. But another element is, how do you start certain difficult topics in the classroom? Topics that can be polarizing, topics that can be simply taboo, topics that you feel are maybe too complex and too kind of boring to students for them to be open to hearing them. So we have made 10 different short videos that cover different modern challenges in society, right? One of them is a video on polarization. The other deals with disinformation. One deals with extremism, radicalization, immigration, mental health, individual pollution, civic engagement, the sometimes awkward question of where are you really from, and nationalism. Why do these videos exist? Because these are complicated topics. And for all of these complicated topics, you probably can't find a very good documentary, a very good video or book online. But if you have limited time with your group, with your class, you need something short, concise, and to the point, something that is short enough that students will be willing to listen to it and not lose patience halfway through. So what I will now do is I will play you one of these videos, which is 3 minutes. And the video I will play is one that's very close to my heart. It's one that deals with the topic of mental health. So without further ado, while I will be sharing this and streaming it, should you perhaps have internet issues, I am also sharing the YouTube link in the chat. So my internet connection should be stable enough that you should be able to see and hear everything. I'm just sharing it as a backup. And with that being said, enough of my rambling. Here's the short 3-minute video.
If you have ever experienced anxiety or depression, if you ever felt overwhelmed or low on energy and like nothing makes sense, you are not alone. According to WHO, globally, 1 in 7 of 10 to 19-year-olds experiences a mental disorder. Depression, anxiety, and behavioral disorders are among the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents. Suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among 15 to 19-year-olds. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Over the course of your life, if you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and behavior could be affected. Some of the following signs can show that the person's mental health is suffering: eating or sleeping too much or too little, pulling away from people and usual activities, having low or no energy, feeling numb or like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless or hopeless. Here are a few suggestions on how to maintain positive mental health. Being physically active. Modest amounts of exercise relieve stress, improve memory, help you sleep better, and boost your overall mood. Getting enough sleep. Lack of sleep leads to the body not being able to muster its normal defenses, and as a long-term effect weakens the immune system. One of the common causes of trouble with falling asleep is late screen time. 2 hours before going to bed, try reading a book or listening to soothing music instead of scrolling through your phone or watching TV. Practicing mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness can reduce repetitive negative thoughts and stress. Luckily, today there are plenty of apps that can teach you mindfulness and help you practice meditation. Getting professional help. Remember that talking helps. When we are ill, we don't think twice about visiting a doctor. Unfortunately, getting professional help in order to take care of our mental health is not as frequently practiced. If you're struggling, reach out to your school psychologist or mental health helpline, because there are people out there who can help.
Okay, so why do these videos exist? Obviously, one element here is that you can dive into these topics if you consider them relevant. Maybe nationalism is something you want to cover with your class. Maybe nationalism is something you're already doing, or mental health. But you need an easy way to introduce the topic. These videos are around 3 minutes. They don't go into great depth. They only cover the basic concept and perhaps add a couple of suggestions on how to deal with the problem, right? But there's also a different element here. Obviously, all of these topics that we've selected are topics that teachers have told us that they're interested in and that they sometimes do with their class. But the other element is, once again, practicing. Talking about mental health, talking about nationalism and all of these topics can be divisive, can be stressful, can lead to emotions in the classroom, can lead to disagreement. And all of these discussions, which you will have time for in the class because the video is short, are once again an opportunity to practice and role model the idea of, look, we're talking about this topic. We don't all disagree. We don't all agree about what should be done, whether or not it's a problem. But despite the fact that we disagree, we can still sit down, we can share our perspectives, and maybe some of us can learn something from this, right? Maybe we find out that somebody else in the class has certain anxieties and issues, and that I'm not the only one who has this problem. But maybe I also learn that somebody has a very different approach to the topic at hand, but I still respect and like this person because they're my friend. If students and the population at large are only exposed to topics and dealing with those topics in a way that's polarizing, that's a zero-sum game, I'm better than you, I win, you lose, then we can't really expect them to find a better, more empathetic, more understanding path. Like it or not, for most students and most people, the only place they'll find and see this alternative way of discussing played out in practice is in the classroom, because they won't see it on Twitter, they won't see it on TV, they generally won't see it on social media. On social media and in society, in most cases, they'll see this us versus them. And I agree that it's kind of an unfair competition on some level, that you're trying to provide an alternative to something that's so present in society in your limited scope of a class, of a workshop. But my personal experience with teachers and educators is that they tend to have more power and more influence over students than they think. Because oftentimes you'll cover a topic with your students and you'll think, they didn't really listen, didn't really hear me, they still disagree. And in a lot of cases, you'll be right. But in a lot of cases, maybe they disagree in the class. Maybe they seem not open to the message you're trying to share in the class. But they'll think about it after class. Maybe they'll think about it a week later. Maybe they'll think about it in a month, right? Or maybe in a year. Bottom line is, as people who introduce important topics and difficult discussions, you all have more influence over students than you think. I know from my life that there are many teachers who created a huge impact on me, what I do today, how I see the world, how I interact with others. But I didn't tell them that after class. And I never, unfortunately, took the time later to find them, shake their hand, and thank them for all the good work they're doing. So from my perspective, I would like to thank you for being here, right? The very fact that in this busy and chaotic world, you're taking time with everything else you have to do to listen to me, to listen to the other presenters, to be introduced to something new, to maybe integrate, experiment with it, that shows a beautiful commitment to the work, but also to the belief that things can be better. Because at the end of the day, there are no guarantees in life. We don't know what the outcome of our efforts, educational or otherwise, will be, because we don't know what the future holds. So in some ways, what you do, what I do, can be seen as optimism without a true cause, because we don't know the outcome. But I can tell you, there is a guarantee that if we don't have people who are committed to empathy, understanding, communication, multi-perspectivity, and coming together, if there aren't people who are very optimistic about a potentially better world, if all of us collectively as humanity give up on trying, that's a guarantee of a bad outcome. So I know you're already doing wonders. I know you're already spending so much time and so much energy doing your best to get the world slightly closer towards that goal that we are hoping we'll get to. And I am hoping, in my humble way, that some of these materials will be useful to you in that mission. I haven't presented everything. There's obviously a lot more on the website. And just one last thing that I would like to say is that we really did our best to create materials that educators will find useful. But at the end of the day, it is up to you to decide whether or not this is something inspiring, educational, something that's relevant or not. These materials and all of our efforts only make sense if they make sense to you. Because when all is said and done, we are small NGOs that can only do so much. We have very little outreach. But you as educators shape generations and you shape perspectives. And if our work can just be a very small addition to all the stuff you already do, that's enough for me. And I am humbled by your willingness to take 10, 15 minutes to look at the site and perhaps find just one thing that you think will be useful in your work. And with that, I close.
Thank you. Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you very much. I think it was so interesting, and the material that you gave us, of course, we will look at it, and maybe someone will translate it to Hebrew and send it to you back. Actually,
If somebody's interested, there's an email contact there. We can send you the raw materials, the Canva files. I know there's people who are very committed to spending their free time on this. So if somebody has willingness to do this, absolutely contact us. We're always open to everything.
You know, Tvertko, with AI, we can do it in 5 minutes. Yeah, but I think it will help some people, educators, that with English it will be difficult for them. But I think I looked at it when I participated in a previous workshop that you did. And I think that it's really worth it to look at it, and you can use it for your students. So thank you very much for being with us and sharing your methodology and ideas. And I really hope that all of us will work together and really would do the world better.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just take your spot away. Oh, someone's already taken the spot away. And thank you. And our next session will be by, I don't want to promote it, but by me. And not as the tech support, but as a English counselor. And I want to remind you that if you want to hear the exact presentation in Hebrew or Arabic, as it will be in English, feel free to go to the interpretation icon in the toolbar, click on the global interpretation and choose Arabic or Hebrew. So we've got a 9-minute break for you to go to the bathroom, to change your coffee capsules, or pour your tea, or anything that you do in your 9 minutes. Change your baby's diaper, but come back, put your camera on, and we're ready for you.
Howie, maybe you can put a clip
Sure.
for the break.
הקמנו את עמותת ניר לזכרו של בנינו ניר, שנפטר ממחלת הסרטן בדמי ימיו, כי רצינו להגשים את תפיסת עולמו. ניר האמין בכל ליבו, בשוויון, בסובלנות ובצדק חברתי בין בני האדם.
Howie,
yes.
we can see your WhatsApp.
Please
Thank you.
answer all the things.
All the participants, yeah.
Each one of you takes one WhatsApp and answer it, please. Thank you for that. Okay.
להפיח רוח חיים בהשקפת עולמו של ניר, כדי להתמודד עם דעות קדומות, לשנות את המציאות, ובכך ליצור חברה טובה יותר. כך נוצר החיבור בינינו לבין טק.
נפגשנו עם משפחת דיסקין ומצאנו שהחשיבה שלנו ושלהם הולכת באותו כיוון, והחלטנו יחד להקים עמותת ניר.
The NEAR organization has a dream to bring together people from all different walks of life, from all different religious backgrounds, to work together, to be together, to learn from one another, to make the world a better place.
مشروع تك بالنسبة إلي هو مشروع اللي بنفذ فيه رؤيتي وإيماني إنه المجتمع لازم يكون إنساني أكثر، لازم يكون عادل أكثر، ومن هذا المنطلق أنا بلك محل وبلك مكان إنه أطبق هاي الفكرة.
Israel is a leading country in the world in technology. So why not use the technology to help solve our problems with cultural diversity? The idea of the model is to use technology to connect people who are far away. The first stage is writing to each other. Now, each time we move up a stage, we're getting to know each other. And the model is done through collaborative learning, working in small groups. The second stage is the stage when you get to hear each other.
שלום ניר, מה קורה? יאו, איזה מגניב.
Now, a voice is so important. With your voice, you carry so much intonation and feelings.
מה אתה מכין? מה זה? מקלובה?
Now, each time we move up a stage, we're getting to know each other. So you can really form a close friendship with those few people. The next stage is the stage where you see each other. It's a stage of conversation, when you're really speaking to somebody in real time.
וואי, תקשיבי, אנחנו פשוט כל כך מתרגשות לראות אותך סוף סוף פנים מול פנים, ובאמת לדבר איתך. שלום,
The fourth stage is when you actually see each other. Towards the end of the course, the students or the pupils get to meet together, and it's really an exciting day.
התוכנית טק חשפה אותי לעבוד עם ילדים ממגזרים שונים והרגלים שונים, וזה היה ממש מעניין וכיף לעבוד איתם, כי למרות שהם שונים ממני, אז ראיתי הרבה دברים שמשותפים بيني لبينهم. البرنامج عشانه أساسه السلام بين بعضنا وشعاره السلام. احنا بنحب نعرف غيرنا على هذا البرنامج عشان نكون لقدام برضه بدون ما نكونش مشاكل بيننا.
אנחנו חווים כאן אפקט של מניפה. השינוי וההשפעה של מודל טק נעשה לא רק על התלמיד, על הסטודנט שחווה אותו, אלא בעצם על כל החברה שמסביבו.
אחד האתגרים העומדים היום בפני העמותה הוא להרחיב את פעילות טק ולפתח טכנולוגיה שתאפשר לכל ילד להכיר ילדים מתרבויות אחרות.
Okay, so I'm glad that you got to see that, because part of the session that I'm going to be describing involves these children exactly. So a reminder that אם אתם רוצים לראות או לשמוע תרגום סימולטני בערבית או בעברית, יש ללחוץ על הכפתור ה-Interpretation, הגלובוס העולמי, ואתם על הסרגל שמתחת לדף, אתם תראו את הדבר, אתם תשמעו את התרגום.
إذا بدكم تشوفوا الترجمة على العربي في عندكم تحت بالزوم من تحت في الشاشة في إشارة الكرة الأرضية، بتكبسوا عليها في interpretation، بتحطوها هناك، بتشوفوا في 3 لغات، عربي عبراني وإنجليزي، بتشوفوا بتحطوا على العربي عشان تقدروا تسمعوا الندوة هاي بالعربي. شكرا هاوي. لك هاوي.
Okay, great. So in order to take part, I would really like you to sign in. It's a one-time link. You can scan the barcode and you'll be ready for starting. Let me just reload it. And it'll take a second. There we go. I'm just going to ask you 2 questions. So just you can get ready and be ready for that. I'll put the link in the chat as well. So you can link it through the chat as well.